And we are live. Konnichiwa, bitches. Welcome to the Ultimate Fans League podcast, UML Bowl 9 edition. The commissioner, Doug Gardner, has always joined by the UML Bowl 9 participants, Carlo Bontempo of Queef Wellington and Connor Hemian, reigning champion, defending champion of the Fozzie fullbacks. Connor, how are you today?
I'm feeling pretty fantastic. I didn't think I'd be here, but hell yeah. I could be the first person in history to go for 2 straight. That'd be pretty sick.
That would be sick. I wasn't sure if you knew that, but then again, I should have known that you.
Oh, I've checked.
You really want to know what your place in history is. So.
Yes, I do.
Carlo, thanks for joining us all the way from Brighton, Massachusetts. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, man. Connor, it would be sick, wouldn't it?
Get out of here, Carl. Why don't you go get some champagne like Joe and jerk it?
Oh!
It's a legendary video. Someone should up that video again. I'm going to do that right now.
All right. So this podcast is going to be a little different than usual. We're obviously not going to go into all of the consolation matches, which a lot of people don't even set their lineups for anyway. So we'll talk about the first choice tournament final between Doug Sr. and AJ. We'll talk about the UML Bowl 9, obviously. But we're also live on YouTube right now. So if you're watching, post your questions in the UML chat on Facebook, and we will do our best to answer every single one of them.
Ray Crowback's already on that one.
I see that. But you've only got like 11 people other than us in the league, so it shouldn't be too hard to actually get to all your questions. And Ray,
I just bumped the Joe Champagne video, so it should be like the first post on the Facebook group now.
Thank you very much, Carlo. And Ray, we'll get to your question a little bit later in the show when we talk about 2018 and beyond. And so without further ado, I will put on my screen share. And then it's going to spaz for a while, right? And then I'll lower it and then open it. And then we'll go to fantasy. I normally go to the league before I do this, but, whatever. There's my team. I'll go to scoreboard. Yeah. So, Carlo,
good work, Doug. Good work.
Thanks, buddy. Carlo, last week you had a big match up against the number 1 seed, Long Bushes. What worked for you in this one, or did Pat really did his team just not show up?
It was a huge matchup. I mean, leading up to this matchup, Pat had won 10 games in a row. So
11, or no,
11.
It was a bye week. It was 10. You're correct.
Well, I mean, still, his team was hot. Respect to him. I mean, his team was good. So, with my team specifically, I had Shady show up, Zach Ertz, who continues to be unbelievable for my team. And then, you can't underestimate the importance of having a good defense and kicker on your team. So I was able to get 24 points between them. Too many wink leaks on my team besides Austin Hooper and maybe Adam Thielen. But
well, 6 points, definitely Adam Thielen. But they just got out to such a lead. It didn't really.
Respect to Pat. He had a good season.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor, your game was a little bit more delicious. Your victory was a lot more enjoyable. You thumped Kevin, who, if you didn't know, is your dad. And Kevin was talking a lot of mess all season. Was it satisfying for you to finally shut him up for good?
Well, as I told him when I came over Sunday night, I asked him how's girly taste, and I felt pretty good doing that. And then on Monday night, I had my little moment there where I was like, maybe I'm still going to lose. And then Jameis Winston's actually a quarterback for once, and Freeman had himself a night. I will say my wide receivers really got me a little concerned with how terrible they were this week, but my running backs just make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. All
right. How does that taste, Kevin? But can we just talk for a quick minute here about Kevin starting? What was it? 7-0, 8-0? What was it?
7-0, yeah.
7-0.
Pat actually had a longer streak of undefeated games.
So
he didn't even have that.
Yeah, and then loses his first playoff game, and it wouldn't be such a big deal. No one would really care. But he was talking so much mess all season, posting in the UML chat. And it's pretty. This must be what everyone else felt like when my 13-0 team lost in the first round of the playoffs.
No, that was a bit more unbearable, but
He was pretty insufferable. He was definitely chirping everybody.
So Kevin, better luck next year, buddy. We'll probably see you back.
I will say maybe the best thing about my score being so high was that he can't even use the Antonio Brown got hurt card. Like,
yeah,
it didn't matter.
50 points, you know.
Yeah,
Kevin's got a decision to make now. I mean, he's going to have Dak Prescott, but in his first round pick is Drew Brees. You wonder if he's going to keep Drew Brees for another year,
or he's been on the slide for a while. His prime was back when he lost those championships back to back, and I mean at this point his start this year was a little bit of a surprise. I thought he was going to lose a couple more games, but still make the playoffs. So he kind of outperformed what I thought with the age of his team. So I think he definitely has some huge question marks going into what he keeps and doesn't keep next year.
Definitely. And I want to get to one of the questions here. Ray asks, should I keep Russell Wilson as his first round pick of the year?
Russell Wilson.
His number one draft pick, number one quarterback in fantasy. Carlo, is this a guy you would keep, or do you maybe throw him back and try to improve somewhere else?
Well, I mean, if you had asked us this question in week 5 when Roethlisberger was saying oh, I might be done, then maybe you should have kept Wilson. But I mean, I guess it depends on Roethlisberger playing next year for Pittsburgh, and then he also has Paxton Lynch kept. How much stock
Paxton
does he
Lynch
have?
Is the worst quarterback in the NFL, not named Christian Hackenberg.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm talking strictly from his QB depth right now.
Right, but
it depends on his draft. There's many factors.
Brock Osweiler, and when you're not as good as Brock Osweiler, you're pretty bad. So I don't think Paxton Lynch affects this decision at all, personally. This is one of those situations where I would look at where some of these rookie running backs, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, where they end up landing in the draft, and based on those situations and some other players that get dropped, maybe you look at what you can do with Russell Wilson. What are your thoughts, Connor?
Yeah, I'm looking right now at his lineup right now. He's got Mark Ingram in there, fantastic. Then who else? He's starting Mike Davis to end the season here. That's something you need to correct, and the first round pick can do that. Is Russell Wilson the best quarterback this year? Yes. Will he be the number one quarterback next year? Probably not.
No.
And are there going to be quarterbacks that have almost around the same amount of points he has at the end of the year? Absolutely. I think that he could get a top-notch running back in the first round, whereas with Russell Wilson, he could get somebody who gets, maybe top 10, top 15 quarterback numbers in the 7th, 8th round. Maybe in our league it's a little bit higher, but
should teams in our league format even be using a first-round pick on a quarterback?
I don't mind it if you get an elite guy like Russell Wilson. I'm sure Ray doesn't have a whole lot of buyers.
I feel like Russell Wilson was a great pick for him this year. I think it did him wonders. He got to see the top quarterback this year, and he definitely won games out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Kevin has had a really good team for a few years now, and he's had Drew Brees in the first round all those years. Even Alex had Tom Brady in the first round, and he made the playoffs a couple times. I don't think as long as you get an elite player, I don't think it really matters what position you take. Like if Rob Gronkowski was around, someone would take him in the first round, and I wouldn't begrudge that at all. So Ray, I hope that answers your questions, and we'll go ahead and we'll move on and preview the first choice tournament. Now, the winner of this, if you didn't know for some reason, even though everyone's been here for at least 3 years now, if you didn't know, the winner of this game gets to choose their draft slot. So you can pick the first pick, the last pick, anywhere in between. And we can go from there to decide who gets the first pick. So that's going to be, it's probably actually not even done right on here, I bet. Yeah, it's not. But it's going to be
actually, AJ and Dear Dad are not even matched up against each other on the website.
Yeah, the website's stupid. But Carlo, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you think AJ might have a shot this week?
Let me pull up his roster first.
Great dead air. Just love it.
Well, I mean, he has a number of good matchups this week. Jared Goff against Tennessee, Christian McCaffrey against Tampa Bay. You wonder how much of a workload Wayne Gallman's going to get, but he, as you can see, he has him in the starting lineup. Baby hands Jack Doyle. I mean, Nelson Aguilar has been more involved in the Philadelphia offense. So, I mean, I could see him scoring some points against Oakland this week.
Even without
And
Wentz.
even without Wentz, yeah. I mean, Nick Foles is he's at least competent. At least he showed it last week.
Yeah, but this is
I
against
mean,
the
And
Giants.
Demaryius Thomas is still getting
19
good
points
targets
last week.
What's that, Connor?
Aguilar still got 19 points last week with Foles under center.
Yeah, but against the Giants.
Yeah, well, apparently the Giants are amazing because they really fucked up my defense last week.
He has players that get targets. Jack Doyle gets targets. Nelson Aguilar gets targets. Demaryius Thomas gets targets. Duke Johnson and Christian McCaffrey, both pass catching running backs. If they can all, get involved in the passing game, then he has a shot.
Nice. So there's your matchup. Doug Senior projected to win by just 4 points, so it's really close. Connor, why do you think the old man's going to get this one?
Well, I mean, he's obviously, in terms of talent on a roster, he probably has the most of it that's left in the field. I mean, between two teams now, especially. But for when it started, the whole entire bracket, I thought he was probably one of the front runners. His team came in hot towards the end of the year. I mean, he's got a top 10 tight end. He's got a top 5 quarterback. He's got a top 20 running back. And he's got the number 2 wide receiver in the league. He's got the things that AJ is still looking for in his roster. So that's always something to be formidable against a lineup. That being said, AJ has put up, big time points these past 2 weeks. He kind of is not himself these past 2 weeks with I think it was 170 something and then 150 last week.
Yeah, he's
putting up a lot of points. So I think Doug Senior has his work cut out for him. But I mean, if the odds, if you ask me the odds on this one, I think that Doug Senior has the edge, and I think that as long as there isn't more freak points put up by Jared Goff, which against Tennessee, he probably can. He probably can put up a huge game.
Doug Senior should also be playing the Panthers defense too. He doesn't have them in the starting slot, so that might swing the projected point totals.
It could. I think that the obvious answer is that Doug Senior will win, but I think AJ's got a little bit of magic. His whole season's been a little bit of magic, so I wouldn't count him out.
That's true. Carlo, if you're AJ and you win this game and you get the first choice, you have the option to, pick wherever you want in the draft. Where do you pick? Do you take that first pick? Do you pick somewhere else? What would you do if you're AJ and you win this game?
I mean, that's kind of the conversation we were having off air. Mm-hmm. He has Christian McCaffrey kept in the first round. I don't. It's a good question. I guess you gotta figure out the lay of the land. I would figure out where I'd want to pick more towards the deadline of when you have to submit what pick you want to use. I mean, that's at least that's what I did. But I mean, like you said earlier, Doug, I know the upcoming is loaded with quarterbacks. It's not exactly what he needs, but I think he has to decide how much he values McCaffrey on his roster and whether or not he wants to keep him going forward or make that sort of decision.
So, Connor, what do you think the old man does if he wins the first choice tournament? Does he just take the first pick and run, or should he consider another avenue?
I think he'll take the first pick and run. Your dad's always been a draft first kind of guy, and I think he would take that first pick and make something out of it.
And he'd have to throw Joe Mixon back to do that. You think that's something he does? You think he goes and gets the next hot thing, or you think he sticks by his guns with Joe Mixon?
I think I would totally do it. You could just get him back if nothing else is better, but I think that Joe Mixon's been definitely a talent to look at, but I don't think he's been anything to say that's my first round pick.
So you and Doug both agree that Mixon is not the guy he should be kept in the first round?
I mean, if you got the option of the first pick and you can just throw him back and pick him again, I guarantee you there's something probably will be better there. And if it isn't, then just scoop him back up.
Yeah, nothing to lose there. It's interesting, this topic, just because the last two first choice tournament winners are both in the championship game and on this podcast. And the last two people to go to the first choice tournament, to win the first choice tournament, have gone to the UML Bowl. Connor won it last year. Carlo, we'll see what happens with that this year. So we'll get to whatever.
Not that it helped too much.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm also wondering how many teams are actually going to be throwing back their first picks as well, considering that you got players like Christian McCaffrey, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, players like Russell Wilson, Zeke Elliott, how many teams are actually going to be having a first-round pick this year?
That's a good question. You might be able to drop yourself back a little bit if you win the first choice tournament to pick 5 or 6, and it's really pick 2. Just because
I feel like even second and third round picks are going to be at a premium this year as well.
Yeah, good point. Good point there. Moving on to another question. Steve says, "Should I quit forever?" Connor, you want to take this one?
No, Steve, don't listen to my dad. He's a hard ass. But I think you did a lot of good. I don't know if I liked what you did in the off season, but I think you made up for it this season in its entirety, even though your record doesn't show it. I think that you are a smart fantasy mind. Just quit making those trades.
Well, that's the thing, though. He's already the price for that trade, the price for that Jordan Howard trade, it's been paid. It's out the door. He's got the draft picks now. He's past it. He's already paid it, and it's in the rear view. And now he's got Jordan Howard, which is, not for nothing. That's a good piece. And he drafted Juju Smith-Schuster, and this is a team. He's going to have the second pick or maybe the first pick, depending on what the person who wins the FCT does. But you just look at this team. Evan Ingram's a good piece. He picked up guys like Jimmy Garoppolo and Kenyon Drake.
You haven't seen what Corey Davis can do yet.
Yeah, Corey Davis. He'll probably throw back. He wasn't worth the second round pick this year. Hasn't done anything to show that he'll be worth one next year. But he did enough. He traded for Mitchell Trubisky, who he can be a QB2 next year, next to Matt Ryan. He's got Brandon Cooks. He's got lots of. He's got some pieces here, and he'll have a good draft pick, to go get another running back. Who's he got in the first round? Dalvin Cook, who he can easily throw back, and like Connor said, get him back if he's the best guy available, or go get Melvin Gordon if he gets put back. I think Steve was not the worst team in the league this year, even though he is going to be wearing the toilet seat during the draft. So
If anything, Steve, here's what I have to say to you. You can just wear that toilet seat proud on draft day and smirk at all those teams that almost had your record that didn't improve themselves for next year. That's what you can get out of it. You can go into draft next year saying, I positioned myself where I'm not going to be sitting around these guys next year. I'm going to be in a top or a higher tier because I actually went out and did something. Did I pay the price this season? Yes, I did. But in the long haul, I'm making moves to make my team better. And then maybe, if Nate makes his numbskull trades next year and, Joe has the bad luck and this or that, you're not going to be with that crowd. You're going to be moving on. And that's something you can take away from it all.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Connor. Anything you'd like to add, Carlo?
Let's do an entire podcast about Nate's trades.
Save it for the Nate's Trades podcast. All right, so why don't we get on to the main event, so to speak? UML Bowl 9. Connor gets a chance to defend his title against the visiting Queef Wellington. The projection line is pretty even here. Connor projected to win by 9 points. It looks like. Carla, why don't you tell us a little bit about the decisions you made, the good and the bad that led you to this decision, led you to this point?
Good. Well, I guess it all started the day of the draft when I made the Isaiah Crowell pick, or trade rather. I needed to bolster my running back depth, and I felt like I did it at the time. And late going into the season, he wasn't very good for me, but I felt like as the season went on, Theo Riddick got more of an increased role in the offense. LaShawn McCoy was consistent all the way through the season, but I think what really helped me was my wide receivers and my wide receiver depth. Having Adam Thielen as my 15th or 14th round pick and getting great production from him. Guys like Devontae Adams who were consistently scoring touchdowns for me all year long, and then having Zach Ertz, after trading away Jordan Reed, I thought I would see a regression in my tight end position, but Zach Ertz was so consistently good for me, and I felt like I was just getting contributions up and down on my lineup. And then, Case Keenum too. Who would have thought that he was going to be this good? There was like a lot of different things that happened for me this year, but I felt like I was able to build my team pretty well just through drafting and then constantly making moves on the waiver wire.
Awesome. What do you think your biggest mistake was that you made all year in terms of, dropping a guy you shouldn't have dropped, making a trade you shouldn't have made, uh, not picking a guy you should have picked in the draft?
First pick.
Maybe first pick. Having
Should've
Alvin
listened to
Kamara on my
Connor.
Well, I mean, I guess it speaks to how much great depth production I was getting on my team. Knowing that I could make it all the way to the UML championship even without having Odell Beckham Jr. on my team. So, I mean,
Well, you weren't exactly hurting at wide receiver, Carlo. So
but I mean,
you have four guys in the top 10, even without Odell Beckham. So
fair point. But I just wanted to go with a player that had a high upside, and then I knew I could count on getting 25 to 30 points a week for me. Which I mean, that's like it's not the points come at a premium in our league, and I want to get the good players.
Awesome. You gonna win?
I hope so. Connor's team is good.
Great. Connor, same question to you. How'd you get here?
I got here from what I've done in drafts the past, 3 or 4 years, and I've just built and built and built on it. I've overcome a lot. I think I had some great pickups to really keep me in the game. Getting Robert Woods, trading for Mohamed Sanu, trading for Todd Gurley. I feel like half of my team has been injured for a long period of time, and I just keep kicking and keep making my way through it. I will say some of the things that hurt me a lot this year, on top of injuries, might have been my first couple of draft picks. I took Winston too. That hasn't really paid off. I took, Pryor this year, which was probably the biggest mistake I had this year. I just feel like I really whiffed on those first couple of picks, but I think I overcame that. I overcame injuries. I think maybe the best thing I did was I drafted Alvin Kamara, which someone in this podcast said I took way too high, but I think I'm pretty okay with it. Honestly, I think that I didn't expect to be here. I didn't think I'd actually make it this far at this point. If you had told me in week, 5 or 6, I would say that I maybe wouldn't have made the playoffs. But I think that getting Steven Gostkowski is going to be a huge key for me throughout the year, throughout the final couple of weeks here. He's pushed me through. Just working the waiver wire and drafting go a long way, I think. That's
Cool.
how I got it.
You gonna win?
Bro, I had to freaking bag Steven Gostkowski's groceries for 2.5 years. That dude stinks.
I mean, if I'd be the first person ever to go two straight, I would love to win. I think it's either going to be a really easy win or a really awful win, because I think Carlos' team can just hit really, really, really high marks, or it just kind of folds. It's a huge wild card. I don't feel good waiting a week to find out. That's how Carlos' team makes me feel.
Nice. So I think we have a great UML bowl here. And Carlo and I were talking earlier, Connor, about Alvin Kamara, or Kamara, if you want to listen to his mom. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, because he says one thing and she says another, which is really strange. Are you worried about statistical regression next year, since he's had a ton of touchdowns and he's getting 7 yards a carry?
Don't answer that question. Just worry about what he's going to do this week for you, Connor.
Well, right. This week he'll probably be great again. He's been great all season. But do you think, is that something that you're worried about next year, or is it, he's your fourth running back? Who cares?
Honestly, what I'm worried about is just making sure that Ingram stays there too. I feel like this guy lives off of getting a couple touches and doing something with them. I'm not afraid. Yeah, will his yards per carry go down? Probably. But I think his talent is in making the impossible happen with very small sample size.
Little Tevin Coleman to his game.
But he's the superior Tevin Coleman.
Oh, yeah, right. But the same kind of
yeah.
player. Yeah.
I think that, you just hand him the ball and he's just there's going to be a play every game that's just going to wow you. And I'm not worried about it.
Great player, almost as good as Kareem Hunt. Moving on, we have a couple questions here to answer. Steve wants to know
More questions.
Should I keep Dalvin Cook round 1? Carlo, your thoughts?
I think so. Well, he only played 3 games this year. He flashed.
Instead of having the second pick of the draft.
It's a small sample size.
I think I would look at the rookies available, and honestly, I think that it's an offense that I would want to be a part of. I think Minnesota's going to be good for quite a few years. So I would totally jump on the Dalvin Cook bandwagon.
I'm going to give the hard no. I don't think you need to. You're going to have the first or second pick of the draft. If Dalvin Cook's the best player, take him again.
I mean, yeah, throw him back. But, if it turns out that Dalvin Cook and Mixon are the 2 best options, your dad or AJ is going to pick Cook over Mixon, in my opinion.
Sure. But with some of the guys coming out, I don't think that's going to be the thing. So I'm going to say no. Carlos says yes, and Connor says, yeah.
It's hard to make a decision at this point.
It's true. That's true. It is December. Ray wants to know some teams that didn't make the playoffs this year that will have a shot at it next year. Connor, why don't you give us 2?
Like 2 teams that are unexpected, kind of, or just
no, 2 teams that did not make the playoffs this year that have a shot at it next year.
I have one. Every year, I feel like Joe can put it together, but every year he just comes.
Have you been paying attention? Unless Joe never makes the playoffs.
I know that's the thing, but I mean, he had some solid draft picks this year. Having Deshaun Watson and Todd Gurley on our team is a start, so he can build around those 2 pieces.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about you, Connor? Got any?
I'll give you the mathematical answer. I think I'm going to throw out the names AJ and Doug Sr. because one of those 2 is going to get the first pick, and as odds have looked, the person who gets that first pick will most certainly be in the playoffs. So I think those 2 teams have a prime opportunity to do so.
All right. And Ray,
what about Doug's team? Hold on. What about Doug's team?
I think he's got a shot. He always has a shot.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're still kind of far away on that one. We need, we have so many holes. I mean, we hit on a few players,
Doug, do you have multiple personalities or something? Why are you saying we?
Because we're an organization. Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
I feel like Nate's team could go into a rebuild this year. I mean, you look at who he has don't laugh, but you look at what he has.
Actually, let me stop you right there, Carlo.
Why?
Much bigger things going on in Nate's life. He actually welcomed a son to the world. I believe it was early this morning.
Wow.
Phoenix Kane.
Yep, Phoenix Kane.
Which is kind of badass, to be honest.
Attaboy, Nate.
So congrats to Nate and Katie on a healthy, beautiful baby boy.
I'd like to thank the mother because I'm sure Nate was trying to call it Keanu.
Well, I mean, let's just thank the mother that the kid didn't come out with like 2 heads like Nate. So congrats.
Oh my God.
We're all really happy for you. But Nate's got some work to do for next year to get himself into the playoffs.
Well, look who he has kept in his first five rounds. Who of those players would you actually keep on your team? Gillislee, Bilal Powell, Kirk Cousins, Brandon Marshall, Travis Benjamin. Those could all be draft picks next year.
Yeah, I might keep Kirk Cousins. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins is a lot of it depends on where he's playing. Is he in Washington? Is he elsewhere?
Yeah. Ask questions on Facebook.
I guess
I was trying to get Mr. Hemming to make him some pizza bagels.
Oh man. So what do you guys think about this format of doing it live and having people ask questions? Do you think it's something that could catch on?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. I mean, if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, I guess, can you post in the UML chat and let us know and all that, or if you've done it before and we just didn't know. So we got that covered. Connor, why don't you go ahead and look ahead to your team's outlook, even if win or lose against Carlo for next year.
Outlook for next year?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have a lot of injured players back. Some mistakes. Well, not mistakes, I would say, but some moves that I made that hurts my future with trades I did this year. I'm going to desperately need a new tight end. I used to have tight ends every year, 3 really good ones, kind of for no reason. And I traded 2 of them away. So all I'm going to have next year is Greg Olsen, so I need to address that.
An aging Greg Olsen.
8, yes. So tight end is a huge answer for me. I need to once again attempt to fix my wide receivers. I failed at it this year.
You almost had Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I did, Doug. Don't remind me about that one.
You could have had Adam Thielen too.
I could, that was probably my favorite pick of yours, Carlo. Instead, I took Snead, thinking I was smart.
Can we talk about how we all gushed over Connor's pick of Willie Snead, and he was like the worst receiver in the NFL this year?
He was trash.
Like,
I
am.
Like,
Terrell Pryor was the worst receiver in the NFL, but but Willie Snead was a close second.
They were both garbage. Well, Connor had a need for Snead.
I did, and I went 3 weeks looking at all these injuries, just suffering, and then I go to my Snead pick, and I'm like, finally, what the hell? I finally get them back, and then he's all of a sudden just complete absolute garbage, and I have to go answer my door.
I wonder if Connor was thinking, damn, should have kept Josh Gordon there. Actually, interestingly enough, I don't think Josh Gordon is kept at all in our league this year. I think he's actually available.
You're right. I think he'll be available in the draft, and that'll be interesting.
Very interesting.
You have any opinions on where to? If anyone has an opinion on where to have the draft, either on the show or watching on YouTube, let us know. We can. It's the 10th anniversary, so I'd like to do something a little different than Giuseppe's. I mean, unless everyone is just like Giuseppe's is the best with their
Vegas.
I'd like to apologize for my father. He's very embarrassing.
# Vegas draft.
Who's paying?
I'll have a room. So there's that. But plane tickets.
What the fuck does that mean?
What's that? It means there's a floor in the hotel room if you're cheap and don't want to pay for your own. But your plane tickets are on you, buddy. So Vegas draft. Anyone want to do Vegas draft? Carlo?
I've never been to Vegas before. I'm down.
I've never been to Vegas either, and I only live like 4 hours away. All right, it looks like we're getting a lot of questions in here, guys.
Yeah.
Connor, don't you wish that you kept Josh Gordon?
What I drafted? That was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was 2 years ago.
But didn't you have him kept in round 3?
I drafted him like round really pretty. It's basically a new Pryor pick for back then.
Yeah, you cannot spend a 3rd round pick on a receiver, can you?
I can apparently. Even Golden Tate's been hit or miss this year.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll get there, Connor.
I think you made the right choice drafting Golden Tate.
Connor, are you going to keep Jordy Nelson?
Probably. No, he's garbage.
That's why I brought it up.
He's at best the 2nd best receiver on his own team.
Yeah, but he has a huge connection with Rodgers.
Yeah, but
the week that Rodgers came back, he didn't have a great game. But if you look at his stats, the 6 weeks when he had Rodgers, he averaged like 23 points.
Yeah, but now he's going to be
the guy's really good,
and
he's in round.
Kevin, you are so salty.
What's he got to say?
Kevin, better point out my score would have beaten anyone. Connor, better point out my score would have beaten anyone else in the league.
Oh my god!
I have a
baby.
Please allow me to answer Kevin's question with a question. Were you playing everyone else in the league, or were you playing Connor?
Dude, get him some diapers for Christmas, would you?
Ouch! Diapers.
He already shit in all the ones I bought for him, so we gotta get him.
Tim asks, "Where will Teddy Bridgewater end up next year?" Connor, you're a big Teddy Bridgewater guy. Yeah, why don't you take this one?
I mean, I have no idea. I think I want to see him play. I really do.
Well, he's not going to be back in Minnesota, that's for sure.
But honestly, I feel like Minnesota should think about it because I don't think Keenum's been really hot this year, but I don't know if that's going to work in the future. I don't know. I feel like it was a great story this year, but I could see him really falling apart. I wouldn't be confident.
A 4 interception meltdown in the playoffs. You might see Teddy Bridgewater back in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
But you could also see him, competing with a high draft pick for a starting job.
I mean, hell, the Minnesota could win the Super Bowl this year.
That's true.
But I think that he will play somewhere. I think he's at least going to get a shot.
I'm going to say Arizona.
I don't know. They seem to love old quarterbacks. I feel like Eli Manning might be getting a huge push to go there.
Eli is going to go to Jacksonville.
I mean, yeah, but I'm sure they're going to want Eli Manning first.
That's true. But I think Teddy Bridgewater will have a chance to start next year. I don't know if anyone's going to give him, if anyone's just going to hand him the keys. But I think he'll have a shot at starting in 2018. What are your thoughts, Carlo?
I'm just submitting a question to the group chat right now. I just need you guys' thoughts on it. If you guys just want to take a,
you can also just say it on the air instead of putting it in the group chat.
No, it's one of those things where you have to put it in the group chat.
If a dog were to open his ass, what's the matter with you?
I just need your thoughts.
It's gotta be number one, because otherwise he'd fall. Right? Like,
Connor, can you weigh in, please?
I can't. I have to go and open it.
Man.
This podcast is officially off the rails. So guys, thanks so much for joining us here.
I think it's number 2.
Thank you.
So we'll be back hopefully next week with a championship recap and all that, and throughout the season, excuse me, the off season with state of the franchise and looks ahead to the draft and beyond. And if you guys like the question, the Q&A format, please post in the UML chat or on the UML page or something. Let us know.
And I would just like to say to Kevin Hemian, I don't want to hear you whining about how we don't talk about your team. You had a full opportunity to ask questions, and you chose to ask the question you asked, and that's on you.
That's right.
And I want to say to Connor that I can't wait for you to make the 2.5-hour drive to Boston to hand deliver me the trophy after this week.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't think so, buddy.
Can that be a thing?
No.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
No, because we presented at the draft. But draft suggestions, podcast suggestions, all welcome. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, taking the time out. I know it's a lot later out there than it is here. And until next time, konnichiwa, bitches.